Not good enough. A short phrase with the destructive force of a punch to the face. It doesn't draw blood, but it leaves an internal wound, silent, spreading, and painfully slow to heal. The problem isn't the words themselves, it's that you believe them. You begin to question everything. Is my appearance enough? Is my career worthy? Why would they say that? And worst of all, you allow that phrase to redefine who you are. This is the most dangerous moment for a man, not the moment he fails, but the moment he doubts his own worth. Because once belief in yourself is broken, everything else, dreams, goals, actions, collapses with it. Have you noticed? Most poor decisions men make stem from this fragile state of being. You throw yourself into work, not out of passion, but to prove to the world, I'm not worthless. You please others until you lose your own voice, simply because you fear being abandoned. You stay in toxic relationships because deep down, you think you're not good enough to have better options. And slowly, you start living as a cheap copy, stripped of self-respect. The question is, how can a strong man be shaken by just a few words? The answer: he has no internal foundation. A man who's never built his own value system, never sat face to face with his fears, never distinguished between other people's opinions and actual truth. When judgment comes, he's an easy target. At that point, you don't need to react. You need to awaken. Look straight into the heart of the problem. Peel it open, name it, and begin building a foundation so solid no one can shatter it again. Because if you don't define your own worth, the world will do it for you, and you won't like the result. Hoy ChatGPT.
You're not lacking value, you're just placing it in the wrong hands. Think back to a moment in your life when someone looked you in the eye and coldly said, "You're not good enough." Maybe they didn't say it outright. Maybe it was just a dismissive glance, a sigh, a brief comparison, but the impact was undeniable. It threw you into a defensive state. Why? Because that judgment didn't just come from them. It hit a nerve you were already afraid to touch, that silent inner fear whispering, "Am I truly worthy?" Real crisis doesn't come from others not believing in you. It comes when you stop believing in yourself. That's when you seal a verdict you never deserve to carry. Let's be honest, when someone says you're not good enough, a man's first instinct usually isn't rage. It's to prove them wrong. You start acting not because you want to, but because you're desperate to erase the inadequate label they just pinned on you. Are you working out to be strong or just to avoid being called weak? Are you chasing money for personal goals or just to prove you're worth something? Have you changed your tone, behavior, your identity for growth or because you fear rejection? Crisis doesn't always arrive with noise. Sometimes it creeps in when you're sitting in front of a mirror, staring at yourself, and all you see is not enough. Not smart enough, not tall enough, not good-looking enough, not masculine enough, not successful enough. And so you stop living to grow and start surviving just to avoid being judged. But ask yourself, who's actually judging you every day? Your partner, your boss, your friends? Or is it that quiet voice in your head, the one that repeats 1,000 times a day, "You're not enough"? The terrifying part isn't that someone said those words, it's that you believed them so deeply, you started viewing the world through their lens. Every rejection, every shift in someone's attitude gets filtered as, "Must be because I'm not enough." And from there, you enter a brutal loop. You act to prove yourself. You're disappointed when it's not acknowledged. You judge yourself even harder. That loop never ends, unless you wake up and trace it back to its roots. The root isn't the judgment, it's the fact that you've never defined your own worth clearly. You don't know whose standards you're living by, so you're swept away by every opinion around you. A man without core principles is like a rudderless boat, drifting wherever the waves push. Someone calls him weak, he'll try to act tough. Someone calls him poor, he'll chase money at all costs. Someone says he's useless, he'll bend over backwards to be accepted. But what happens when there's no one left to chase? What's left of you then? If the answer is nothing, then you're living as a replica, not a real independent man. Crisis isn't your enemy. It's a signal. It's saying, it's time to stop, reflect, and rewrite your own verdict. You're not good enough. You're just someone who's never decided what good truly means, on your own terms. Starting today, stop living like a man trying to erase a label of failure. Start living like a man with standards, with purpose, who doesn't need anyone's permission to feel worthy. Because you're only truly strong when no one can take away your self-worth, not even you. 2. Wake up. A man wasn't born to be chosen. There's a type of man you'll see everywhere in society. He speaks gently, behaves politely, always tries to keep others happy. On the surface, he seems fine, even praised as nice, easygoing. But inside, he lacks an internal anchor. I know this type of man well, because I used to be one of them. I used to stay silent when I was hurt, never spoke up, never pushed back. I thought if I stayed calm, stayed soft, everything would be okay. But I was wrong. That silence wasn't peace, it was fear. Fear of being left. Fear rooted in insecurity that slowly devoured me from within. I remember once being publicly criticized by someone I loved. "You're always so dull." I forced a smile. I stayed quiet. I told myself, it's okay, she's probably just tired. But that night, I spent hours rereading old messages, replaying conversations, trying to understand why she said that. Not to understand, but to blame myself. I didn't think, she's wrong. I thought, maybe I'm just not good enough. In that moment, I wasn't a man. I was a boy, begging for approval. Do you see yourself in that story? A man who lacks self-belief never realizes it at first. He's good at hiding, good at being nice, good at enduring. But it's all a mask. Beneath it, he's fragile, insecure, and dangerously easy to manipulate. You want to know the biggest red flag? He lives to please others. He's terrified of disappointing anyone. He panics when people don't respond. He needs external validation to feel okay inside. And worse, he has no clear standards to live by. This doesn't happen because he's inherently weak. It happens because of one simple truth. He never stopped to build trust in himself. When you don't have a personal value system, no core principles, no solid foundation, you're swayed by every word, every glance, every rejection. You start interpreting how people treat you as the ultimate truth. Someone acts cold. You think, I must have done something wrong. Someone criticizes you. You don't analyze it, you just accept it. That's the subconscious programming many men live by, without realizing it. Instead of living like a grounded adult, you live like a mirror. Someone smiles, you feel worthy. Someone turns away, you feel worthless. And then you seek validation from everywhere, from your boss's compliments, from your partner's seen messages, from your social media likes. Each response, no matter how small, holds far too much power over a man who has no inner core. But what's the truth? No one can give you value if you haven't built it yourself. Not your lover, not your job, not your parents, not social media. They're just reflections. The root is you. Can you sit down and write clearly, who am I? What do I believe in? What will I never tolerate? What am I living for? And who truly has the right to judge me? If you've never done that, don't be surprised when someone's throwaway comment derails your entire sense of direction. Because at that point, you're not living, you're existing for permission to live. And that's the most dangerous place to be. Because a man who doesn't believe in himself will never lead his own life. Wake up, stop chasing approval, turn inward, face yourself. Because if you don't, the world will define you, and they won't be kind about it. 3. Why are you a good man, but still left behind? Have you ever asked yourself, why do I keep ending up in the same kind of relationship? The same disappointment, the same abandoned, hollow feeling. It's not because you're unlucky. It's not because someone else is toxic. It's because you're repeating a familiar pattern, one that your subconscious has falsely labeled as safe. Psychology calls this the compulsion to repeat, an unconscious urge to recreate past experiences, even when they've caused pain. Sounds irrational, doesn't it? Why would anyone repeat their own suffering? But think deeper. A child raised in emotional deprivation grows up used to not being heard, not being cared for. As an adult, they gravitate toward relationships that feel the same, ones that don't meet their needs, not because they enjoy suffering, but because they don't know what healthy love looks like. They seek familiar pain because, subconsciously, familiar equals safe. And you, the grown man reading this, might be living that exact story. You're used to working tirelessly just to be seen. You're used to bearing emotional weight alone. You're used to letting others define your worth. You think it's love. You think it's responsibility. You think it's maturity. But in truth, you're replaying a dependency model you absorbed as a child without even knowing it. The danger: this loop doesn't need your permission. It operates unconsciously. You're not choosing pain, but you're not resisting it either. You stay in relationships that make you smaller. You stay silent when you should speak up. You turn down opportunities out of fear of judgment. You live as though you never had the right to set boundaries. And each time, you tell yourself you're being the bigger person. But what's really happening is you're letting an outdated system run your present. A strong man isn't one untouched by his past. He's someone who recognizes the influence of it and chooses to break it. Look honestly. Are you repeating a relationship dynamic that makes you feel worthless? Are you choosing jobs, people, behaviors based on fear, not values? Are you enduring instead of confronting, compromising instead of cutting clean? If yes, here's what you need to understand. You are not at fault for the model you inherited, but you are responsible if you keep letting it lead. Stoicism teaches one crucial truth. You do not control circumstances, you control how you respond. It sounds simple, but to live it, you must shatter your old programming. And the first step is naming it. You must be brave enough to say, I'm stuck in an old loop, and I choose to break it. No excuses, no blaming the past, just one decision. From now on, I will respond differently. You don't need anyone else to change. You don't need the perfect timing. You only need to recognize the moment your past starts pulling you back and choose to write a new response. Every time you stay silent out of fear of loss, speak. Every time you want to retreat out of fear of judgment, step forward. Every time you act from old emotion, pause, breathe, and ask, does this serve me or just the outdated script within me? This is a battle no one will see. There's no audience, no applause, just you and yourself. But if you win this battle, you will never live on repeat again. And in that moment, you won't just be surviving, you'll be leading your life. 4. Stop trying to be better. Start becoming unshakable. One of the most toxic illusions many men carry throughout their lives is the belief that if I'm good enough, if I try hard enough, if I love deeply enough, I'll be valued. It sounds reasonable, but the truth is, it's wrong, it's dangerous, and it's quietly killing your masculine strength. You can be a good man, a truly good one. You can love someone with all your soul, fully, kindly, sincerely, even sacrificially. And yet, there's still a very real chance they won't choose you. Not because you lack anything, but but simply because you're not what they're looking for. And this is where many men break down. They don't know how to distinguish between personal worth and external acceptance. You do your best, but you don't get promoted. You love with your whole heart, but they still leave. You give, commit, strive, but life still feels indifferent. At that point, you start to doubt yourself. You think, maybe I'm still not good enough. Wrong. The problem isn't that you're not good enough. The problem is believing that being good is enough to control outcomes. The truth is, no one, absolutely no one, is guaranteed that their kindness will be reciprocated, that their love will be kept, that their effort will be rewarded. Life doesn't follow the formula, if I try hard, I will be loved. And the more you live in that illusion, the easier it is to fall into self-punishment when things don't go your way. You start blaming yourself, you push harder, you keep trying. Not because you genuinely want to, but because you believe, if I just try a little more, maybe this time it'll be different. That's not maturity. That's an addiction to the feeling of fixing yourself to be accepted. You're not living with self-respect. You're negotiating internally. Am I good enough yet? And that is a trap with no exit. Because there will always be someone who doesn't appreciate you. There will always be someone who chooses someone else. There will always be circumstances that don't reward your efforts. So the real question is not, how do I get everyone to choose me? The real question is, do I still see myself as worthy even when they don't? A strong man is not someone who is always loved. He is someone who refuses to trade his values just to be loved. He doesn't beg for affection. He doesn't contort himself just to be accepted. He walks away with his head held high when a place no longer aligns with who he is, even if he still cares. Because he knows something simple but powerful. My worth isn't in someone else's eyes. It's in how I treat myself. Remember, you weren't born to be chosen. You were born to choose where you truly belong. And that place, it won't always be comfortable. It won't always soothe you or agree with you. Sometimes the place you belong is the place you have to walk away from so you don't lose yourself. From this day forward, let go of the illusion that being better will fix everything. No one owes you recognition just because you're good. You owe yourself one thing: unshakable commitment to who you are, honesty with yourself, and dignity that cannot be bought. A mature man is someone who dares to say, I wasn't chosen, but I'm still whole. I was rejected, but I didn't lose my value. I don't need to be perfect to deserve my place in this world. And when you truly accept that, you free yourself from emotional slavery, and that is the most powerful kind of freedom a man can have. 5. It wasn't them who lost you. You lost yourself first. There will be days when it feels like the whole world is against you. The person you trusted turns their back. The one you love goes silent. The place you poured your heart into no longer needs you. And in that moment, a thought flashes through your mind. Maybe I should just give up. I'm not talking about giving up on a job or a relationship. I'm talking about giving up on yourself, abandoning the belief that you have value, letting go of the principles you once stood by, and starting to live passively, drifting wherever life pushes you. The most dangerous moment for a man isn't when he falls. It's when his inner fire goes out, and he doesn't even notice. You still go to work. You still smile, nod, and say thank you. But deep down, you know, your light is gone. So the question is, how do you keep that light alive when everything around you is darkness? First, you must understand. Real light doesn't come from the outside. Not from success, not from compliments, not even from love. It comes from knowing who you are and staying true to that, even when no one sees you. And that's the hardest thing. Living in alignment with yourself, in silence. No applause, no support. In fact, the opposite. Doubt, criticism, even ridicule. And you'll start to wonder, am I doing something wrong? Wrong if you live by emotion, right if you live by principle. A strong man isn't unshaken. He still feels pain, still wrestles with fear, still wants to run. But he doesn't act from those emotions. He sits, breathes, watches, and asks, what's the most principled thing I can do right now? That's the difference between reacting and reflecting. Reacting is letting fear lead. Reflecting is letting wisdom guide. A grounded man isn't pulled by storms. He becomes his own anchor, a lantern in the chaos. He might flicker, he might shake, but he doesn't go out. You might not feel strong enough to endure. But strength isn't about feelings. It's about actions. You don't need to feel okay to do what's right. You only need to decide not to do what's wrong. Picture yourself in the middle of a violent storm. Trees crashing, wind howling, everything collapsing. But in the eye of that storm, one man sits still, eyes closed, breathing steady. He doesn't deny the storm, but he refuses to let it take him over. You can be that man. You don't need to look unbreakable. You don't need to force yourself to be tough. You just need to be awake enough not to betray yourself. That's the kind of strength that holds. And from that strength, you begin to transform. From a man who reacts to a man who observes. From someone who lives for validation to someone who lives with direction. From a boy chasing approval to a man who defines his own worth. Transformation isn't becoming someone else. It's returning to yourself, but the awakened version. A truly strong man is not someone who's always cheerful, motivated, or upbeat. He's someone who, in his darkest moment, still holds to his principles. Even if it's something small, not texting out of anger, not lying to avoid discomfort, not abandoning himself just because someone else did. Because those small acts, repeated daily, are the fire. And if you stay loyal to that fire long enough, your light will grow so strong, nothing will be able to put it out. 6. True value doesn't need validation, only a declaration. No theory will change you if you don't start taking action. You can read hundreds of books, watch thousands of motivational videos, listen to every healing podcast out there. But if you wake up every morning and behave the exact same way, you're still the same man. Inner freedom doesn't come from knowledge. It comes from a daily commitment to live differently. You've analyzed the pain, named the fears, recognized the repeating patterns, but now it's time to step beyond awareness and start facing yourself through concrete action. So where do you begin? 1. Observe yourself in the trigger moment. Pick one specific situation, nothing huge. For example, every time the person you like doesn't reply to your message, you instantly feel anxious, out of control, and want to do something. Text again, complain, or try to get their attention. That's the trigger moment, the point where you're no longer in charge. Your emotions are driving you. The first thing you must do, pause. Just 3 seconds. Don't react. Don't text back. Don't keep checking your phone. Don't say anything. Just 3 seconds of stillness. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is pulling me right now? No need to answer. Just acknowledge that you're being pulled. This pause might seem small, but it's your first barrier against falling into the old reflex loop. Repeat those 3 seconds every day, and you'll slowly reclaim your authority. 2. Do the opposite of what you usually do. Once you've identified your pattern, try reversing your default reaction. If you usually explain yourself to be accepted, this time, stay silent. If you tend to clarify the relationship via text, this time, don't send anything. If you always try to please others to avoid losing them, say no to something small and let yourself feel the discomfort without acting on it. You'll feel uneasy, restless, maybe even shaky. But the moment you can tolerate that discomfort without escaping it, that's when you begin to break free. You don't need dramatic change, just small, conscious, different steps. This is how you train your inner muscle. Grounding meditation. 5 minutes. This isn't for relaxation, it's to confront yourself. Instructions. Sit somewhere quiet, eyes closed, back straight. Place your hand over your chest, where you can feel your heartbeat. Begin slow, deep breathing. Don't force emotions out, invite them in. After 1 to 2 minutes, ask yourself mentally, what am I avoiding in life right now? Don't rush the answer. Let the question float, keep breathing. Stay with any feeling that surfaces. Sadness, fear, anger, grief, frustration. Don't fight them, sit with them. This practice trains you to stay with truth rather than reacting to instinct. 5 minutes. A strong man doesn't just communicate with the world, he communicates with himself. Create a simple nighttime habit. Before sleep, take 2 minutes to ask, did I act from emotion or from principle today? What did I avoid facing? What action am I proud of today? No need to write, just be honest. This is how you train awareness and stay centered amidst the chaos. Face yourself, free yourself. You don't need someone to rescue you. You don't need external approval. You only need enough courage to pause and see clearly. You are no longer living by your old programming. And when you repeat this long enough, you won't be the same man anymore. You'll be the man you were always meant to become. 7. You're no longer ruled by silence. If you're the one who decides, when a man walks through crisis, he doesn't need a flag to wave. He doesn't need a speech to glorify him. He only needs one statement, strong enough to survive and true enough to live by. A declaration isn't a pretty slogan. It's the final boundary you must never cross, even if she leaves, even if the world collapses, even if you tremble alone in the dark. And this is the declaration for you. If you dare to live as a real man, I will not betray myself just to be kept by someone else. Let that sink in, not because it sounds nice, but because it will save you in the moments you feel weak, but are actually facing a defining crossroad. How many times have you stayed silent when you should have spoken, just because you were afraid to lose them? How many times have you agreed, nodded, compromised, not out of grace, but out of fear of being judged, not good enough? How many times have you reshaped yourself to the point of becoming unrecognizable just to make someone stay? Face it, that's not love, that's not growth, that's self-betrayal, one silent piece at a time. A strong man isn't one who needs no one, he's one who dares to lose everything, but not himself. A declaration is how you remind yourself every day that you don't need approval to be unwavering, that you don't need to be understood to live by your values, that you don't need to be likable to feel worthy. You have the right to stay silent, but never stay silent toward yourself. Choose just one act today, just one, to practice this declaration. Say no when you truly disagree. Walk away from a conversation that devalues you. Hold your silence when someone demands an explanation just to feel better while you owe them nothing. Because in the end, you don't need someone to stay to know you're valuable. You only need one person who never leaves you, no matter what, and that person must be you.